So we're first going to talk about Zach Wilson and the Jets going up against the Chiefs here. I thought this game was really good, honestly. I thought, with all the talk of Zach Wilson basically being just destroyed by the media over the past week, and he comes out and he balls out in MetLife in front of Taylor Swift and Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively and Aaron was there too, which that was awesome. That was pretty cool to see Aaron there show up for the team. I think he gave a little speech, a little pep talk to the guys there, and just there was a lot of noise surrounding what was going on, right? And it's one of those things where, like, personally, I feel at this point you feel bad for Zach. He's not playing that. He hasn't been playing that well, and it's been a while. We've seen a lot of him over the past couple of seasons, and it just hasn't been clicking. But I do think, like him with Aaron Rodgers now, you can start to see a little bit of an attitude shift, right? And even after this game, he took a lot of responsibility for the loss. He put it all on himself, and I think a lot of Jets fans remember last year, I think it was last year when he basically deflected a lot of the blame or all the blame, and he just said he didn't have a problem with what happened, with the loss last year. But this time around, you could tell like he was, and to me it seemed genuine, right? It seemed like he was saying, yeah, no, that loss was on me, and you can't fumble the ball like he did, and you can't, miss those throws. Like there was one possible touchdown, he just kind of overthrew it, I think, a little bit. And honestly, I thought he played very well, right? They came back. They tied the Chiefs 20-20 in the third quarter. There was that, I think, a completely missed and blown holding call, which I think that's a little bullshit that, the Chiefs, they tend to always get away with those kind of holding calls. And it's just, now the Jets did have, their share, I think, a little bit in this game too, of calls that were a little questionable, or missed calls that were questionable. But I just think with the Chiefs, you look at the Jawan Taylor thing from week 1, it just starts to get loud of like, hey, how come the Chiefs are getting a little favor here, And so that I just really didn't like that Mahomes run was, I think, solely because of the fact that he had his I think his guard or tackle there, they were holding the guy, and it was, I didn't think that was the right call. That was completely missed call, blown call. But also at the same time, like, Zach Wilson can't fumble the ball where he did, right? And that was the last 6 minutes of the game. I think it was like 6:30 or something, and he just fumbles the snap, and he explained how he was kind of looking over, I think, to the left, and just to check the protection or something like that, and I think Peyton Manning and Eli Manning touched on it on the Manning cast. But you can't have those fumbles and those mental errors in such a key game against the champs, and if you're playing against the champs, you have to be able to really tighten up. But I will say, for the most part, or for a large part of that game, I really thought Zach Wilson stepped up a lot. I thought he proved that he could be, there's potential there. It's hard to say after one game, right? Because if he sucks for the next 2, 3 weeks and 4 weeks, then this one game doesn't mean a whole lot. It just means that, like, he had one good game, but that's it, and I think in a way, I think his career is a little bit on the line here, right? Because yes, I think Aaron Rodgers is coming back and he's going to be the guy for the Jets for the next, season or 2 seasons or however long he's staying. But I think this is a moment where Zach's like, hey, there's a future here for him if he plays well. I think what could possibly happen is if he plays really well, or plays, to the level that he did against the Chiefs, that sets him up to now be under the learning tree of Aaron Rodgers. And then hopefully when Aaron Rodgers is done, then we get a really finished product of what Zach Wilson will look like and what he'll be after he's done. And yeah, again, I touched on the last video where I feel like people are just torching him for, Joe Namath hopped on, everyone hopped on, but like, I feel like the plan all along was that the management and the coaches, they knew, and even Aaron Rodgers, they knew that, like, Zach Wilson is not a finished product at all right now. And part of Aaron's goal coming in was to be able to help him and kind of teach him and mold him into a really, really good QB. And with Rodgers getting hurt in the first week, it's like now you just push that timeline way up, and now expectations are like, oh, well, this guy sucks, like he's terrible. But meanwhile, it's like, well, the plan, yeah, of course, he wasn't good, and he still isn't as where he wanted to be. But the plan was always to wait a good year, or, a year and a half or two or whatever for him to develop, and but again, it's also, but the other side of it, which I also see, is like, he's been in the league long enough that at some point, he can't just always be developing. He has to kind of get there, or they got to get someone else. So I can see both sides of it. I just think, though, that with this game, I thought he played really, really well. I thought he had control of it. I thought, he had he was 28 for 39. He had 245 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a career high QB rating of 105. I thought the way he orchestrated those touchdown drives, one was like a 41-yard touchdown drive, the other one was 75-yard touchdown drives. He converted. He did the 2-point play. I thought he just had control of the offense, of his offense, and you could see the team buy in. Right, the team was buying in, the defense was bought in, and it gains confidence all around, and it also gets your team to be, to believe in you. And you could tell that his team really had his back 100% by the end of that game. And a lot of them came to him and was like, hey, it's definitely not your fault. Or, you could just tell that was what was being told. But he took it on the chin. He said he took responsibility of it. He felt like he let his team down. And you just want to see that leader emerge from him, and you start to kind of see spurts of it now. But yeah, I thought he played really well, and I thought that a big part of why he was able to play well was the coaching staff and just the way that the game was called, like the plays that were called, it really tailored around Wilson's like skill set, right? There's a certain way that Zach plays that his strengths, he's not always just meant to be a sit back, drop back passer. It's a lot of quick plays. Sometimes when he hangs onto the ball too long, that's when he makes bad decisions, or that's when he'll exit out of the pocket in a way where it's just not that good. So, these quick plays that are drawn up, those are the ones that really help him. And you just need to be able to make the right scheme for him so that he shines, because you can't just expect him to be a quarterback that he's not. And that's one of the big things that I think helped him in this game, was just you do have to give Nathaniel Hackett credit here. And honestly, I was on the side of like questioning whether Hackett was, whether it was really good or not, because of the fact that, you have this guy who was with Aaron Rodgers for a long time. And then when he goes to Denver, he doesn't do well at all. And then he comes back to the Jets, or he comes to the Jets and he's back with Rodgers, but then he gets hurt and Wilson's not doing well at all. It's like, Aaron Rodgers is the common denominator here. So I think that, again, give him credit for the way that he handled this game with working with Zach and how they drew up plays and things like that. So we'll see what happens next week. I think with just the, moving forward with the Jets here, it's a thing that, you have to build on this momentum, right? Zach has to keep this going, because I think the moment he has and he's such under a microscope, and I'm not talking about just like the New York meetup, not just talking about the New York media, but the media in general and everyone in general who's got eyes on what's going on with him. They put him on such a microscope now, and in some ways unfairly, but they do put him on a microscope now that. I'm sure the moment he has like 2, 3 bad drives, or a bad quarter again in the next game, they're going to start questioning him again, right? There's going to be those questions that come up, and he's going to be held to such a standard. And it's a big game coming up, the Broncos game, right? Sean Payton with those comments, so that's just a big test for. And I also think hey, Hackett's going to come in. He's going to be a little bit, full of piss and vinegar here because of Peyton, what he said and all that. So it's going to be an exciting matchup. I think actually it's going to be a definite game to watch on Sunday, where we'll see how, the Broncos, they won a game. They bounced back a little bit, I guess. They kind of pulled one over the Bears there, but we'll see how Zach Wilson, Nathaniel Hackett, what they do, what they scheme up, and how they attack that Broncos defense. Because right now the Broncos defense, hey, there's a chance there that they could actually get some points on the Broncos defense, because that defense has been struggling as of late. But again, overall, I thought that this game, just in terms of Zach Wilson's performance, he outplayed Mahomes, right? And that's a very, very rare thing. Mahomes had, 203 passing yards. He had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and again, but this is what makes guys like legends, like Mahomes, legends, is that they have a bad game, but he still wins. He still has enough football IQ to know how to basically ice the game at that last scramble he did. So when you have that and you have that ability to still come out with a win, regardless of playing poorly, and I think you got to give a lot of credit to Isaiah Pacheco this game, the New Jersey's own hometown boy. You got to give a lot of credit to him. I think he carried the Chiefs this game. And yeah, I mean, it's surprising turn once that safety happened. The games just started to change, and you could feel it. Everyone saw it, and they just started to roll. Mahomes really, started to threw those interceptions, or he threw that one interception, gained some momentum. But last thing I'll say with Zach Wilson is, I do hope that we start to see him gain that level of momentum and rhythm within a game without having to rely on the other team's mistakes to get there, right? Because what we've seen with Zach Wilson, again, with the Bills game, Josh Allen didn't play well, and I think this was touched upon in ESPN's First Take or Get Up, actually. I think Rex Ryan touched on this, and it's he plays well when he's given these really good opportunities within a game, right? He takes advantage of the fact that other team will throw multiple interceptions, so it brings his team closer to the end zone. Mahomes interceptions, defense makes good stops, right? But we want to see Zach Wilson be able to drive the ball down the field, and have a good rhythm and do it on consistent drives or in consistent quarters without needing some fortunate bounce to happen, right? So we'll see how that goes. But again, I was very impressed by Zach Wilson's performance. I really thought he played really well, shut up a lot of the doubters for just a game. All right, again, it's only one game, so we'll see how this pans out moving forward. But I think it's a really good starting point. And of course, right, there's no more victories and all that stuff that they say there, but still, I do think there is a lot to take away from this game. If you're a Jets fan, I think there is a sense of hey, there is something there. There's a spark there. Now let's just make it, let's keep it going, right? And let's hopefully carry it on until Rodgers comes back. So we'll see how that goes for them.